Hello, this is Stormwater coming back at you today with another video update. And today we're going to talk about Major Hurricane Milton, which is now a Category 4 hurricane. It has rapidly strengthened overnight, and I was telling you guys yesterday, this is gas and there's no brakes. We're seeing rapid intensification on the order of like extreme levels. I don't know if we've seen rapid intensification this strong in a very long time. So, guys, this is not looking like a good situation. We already had a Category 4 hurricane. Cat 5 hurricane is certainly on the table, and at this point, it might even be likely. So we could be looking at a Cat 5 hurricane, maybe in the next update. We could be looking at a Cat 5 hurricane, guys. So we're seeing a dangerous situation unfolding in the Gulf of Mexico, and as this continues to push east, we are now looking at the potential for the Yucatan Peninsula to get in on this and to possibly be the first landfall spot. So, again, a dangerous situation is unfolding. We're looking at a Cat 4 hurricane. So, yeah, it's not looking good, guys. So let's go ahead and bring up the latest updates. And currently, of course, we have Hurricane Milton. Let's do this update. So I'm just read this here real quick. Data from a Hurricane Hunter aircraft indicate that Milton has strengthened to a Category 4 hurricane. The maximum sustained winds are 150 miles an hour. So, guys, this is a very dangerous situation. If you're in Florida, you should be preparing for a significant storm. But we're gonna talk all about that as we go through the video. So, again, that's Milton right there. And there's a couple things I want to note here before we move on. Get my writer out here. So, you notice this very small pinhole eye right there. So, and just notice the overall structure of the system. This is a fairly small system in the Gulf of Mexico. So, what's happening here is that you have a really small system with that really tight compact core. Guys, remember I was telling you the other day, and even when we talked about Francine, when you have these really small systems and these tight, compact pinhole eyes, rapid intensification can go crazy, and we've seen that happen today. We've seen that happen this morning. This system has gone crazy. You're seeing some rapid intensification on the order of, we're talking 20 millibar drops in an hour. So, on the order of that, that's significant to extreme rapid intensification. And so this is just another case of a smaller system taking advantage of the in total environment. So, guys, this is a dangerous situation, but I just wanted to take note of the smaller structure of the system, that pinhole eye that you're seeing. It's a lot less susceptible to any of the limiting factors around its environment. I mean, it is just holding its own weight, and it's going to continue to do that because the environment is just that much favorable for this hurricane. So, definitely not a good situation for the Yucatan Peninsula, as this is now looking like Yucatan Peninsula may be the first landfall spot, and they may get significant storm. They may actually get a Cat 5 hurricane that makes landfall in the northern Yucatan Peninsula. So, if you're along that northern Yucatan Peninsula and you're watching my video, guys, I need you to prepare for a significant to dangerous, life-threatening hurricane in your neck of the woods, because this could be a totally bad situation. Now, moving on to the models. Moving on to the hurricane models, which have done a fairly good job forecasting this. They all have dropped this down to Cat 4, Cat 5 hurricanes, and now that's what we're seeing. So, looking at HWF hurricane model, we're going to start out from 12Z this morning, which is 8 a.m. this morning. And we're going through time. You can notice HWF may even be a little bit too weak with this system, at least from the start off. We already have a Cat 4 hurricane this morning, so it'll probably get lower than the 930s at this point in the game. But you notice as it pushes towards Florida, yeah, it weakens a little bit. But just look at that. That is an extreme storm for Florida, guys. That's not a good. This is not ideal at all, because number one, with the way this storm is coming, storm surge is going to be a huge issue. And I'm telling you right now, if you're in Tampa and these northern tracks verify, you could have had a dangerous storm surge event that you haven't seen in years. So if you're in Florida, you should be preparing for a life-threatening storm, life-threatening storm surge, which I will show you in the video. But there's already the possibility of 8 to 12 foot storm surge in Tampa Bay. There's in surrounding areas. So this is a HRF model, and it makes landfall generally 8 a.m. Thursday morning, which is a little bit later, and that's been a trend. We've been seeing a slower arrival of this system, and I think mainly in part because you're having that landfall over the Yucatan Peninsula, which may slow things down a bit. Also, our trough is moving a bit faster, and so that's also just another role that's playing in this. I think most models are now starting to latch onto the fact that there may be more of a turn northeast, which may allow more northern track. So, generally speaking, this just isn't a good situation overall. So, the HRF makes landfall right around a Cat 3 hurricane, and then it moves it through Florida. So, not a good situation at all, not very ideal. Here's another hurricane model, HMO model. And we're going through time, and it rapidly strengthens this system to a fairly strong Cat 4 hurricane. But we're already at Cat 4 hurricane, so Cat 5 hurricane is obviously looking a lot more likely. And then it makes a landfall as a Cat 2 hurricane on 11 p.m. Wednesday. So it's a little bit faster, but generally speaking, this is still a bad situation for Tampa Bay. The storm surge will be catastrophic with this northern track that we're seeing. So definitely some not some good scenarios I'm seeing, and it seems that as we get closer to this system, things are looking just a lot more dire, a lot more dangerous, life threatening. So if you're in Florida, you should be preparing right now. You should be preparing for a significant system. Now, they talked about weakening yesterday and models that want to weaken this system fairly fast. Now, that is still a possibility. I'm still thinking that as the system gets closer to Florida, we're going to see weakening, and maybe even rapid weakening from wind shear and dry air. But I also think that regardless of the situation, Florida's already going to be getting hit by this system way in advance. So even if you do have rapid decaying of the system, you're still going to get a nasty event in Florida. This doesn't change that. It doesn't matter how much weakening takes place before landfall, you're still going to see a dangerous event in Florida because this system is already going to be on your doorstep anyway. So even though it may be, Cat 4 just offshore, but it comes on the shore as a Cat 2, because it's so close in proximity to Florida, you're already going to be seeing dangerous squalls, storm surge, wind, because the system's just so close. So even though we expect some weakening of the system as before it makes landfall in Florida, do not let your guard down because this is still going to be a dangerous system. And I want to keep the same messaging because I don't want anybody to get the wrong idea that, the system's going to weaken. No. And some of these models overdo the weakening process. I do expect some quick weakening, but not to the extent that some of these models are doing it. But don't let your guard down there in those areas. Now here's the HAFSA model with Milton, and these models have done a fairly good job forecasting this system. Generally speaking, they have had a really great idea of the structure of this system. And quite frankly, they've been consistent in getting this storm down at least to a Cat 5 status. So it's certainly possible. They're a little bit further south than the other hurricane models like the HMO and HRF, which is pretty interesting. And I think that has a little bit more to do with the fact that they're maybe not as far south with the northern Yucatan area. So, but again, looking at satellite, it looks like this system's headed like towards the northern part of Yucatan. So, the further north tracks may end up verifying here, but we'll talk a little bit more about that deeper in the video. But you can see the structure on the HAFSA model is right on par kind of with what we're seeing right now. You're seeing that pinhole eye, the very small structure of the system. This is right in line with what we're seeing on the surface analysis, and it makes landfall. It makes landfall right along Tampa Bay, off the HAFSA model, which is not ideal. And you remember yesterday where this model was showing significant decaying of the system? Well, let's come back to reality. What we do know is that this system isn't just going to go from a Cat 5 to a Cat 1 in over that short amount of time. So it makes landfall now as a Cat 3 hurricane. So guys, even though you see weakening of the system, landfall as a Cat 3 is a major hurricane. So just because it's not a Cat 4 or 5 doesn't mean anything. Will it weaken before landfall? Absolutely, in my opinion. But it doesn't change the fact that you're still going to see dangerous impacts in Florida. And I'm telling you right now, storm surge is going to be a huge deal, as well as wind, rain, of course. But this is very interesting. It's not decaying the system the way it was earlier, and that's certainly not good news. But I think it's come back to reality, But it makes landfall as a Cat 3 hurricane, and it makes landfall Wednesday evening. It makes landfall Wednesday at 8 p.m. So there's still some discrepancy between the models on when this makes landfall. You got HRF that doesn't make landfall till Thursday morning. You got HMO that doesn't make landfall till late Wednesday night. And then you got the HAFS model that doesn't even make landfall. That makes landfall 8 p.m. Wednesday. So still some discrepancy between the landfall positions, but I think that has a lot to do with how this system interacts with Yucatan Peninsula. So that'll be more of a short-term watch thing and just watching surface analysis. Now, looking at the B model of the HAFSA, and again, great structure on the models. I think this is a great representation of what we're seeing out there right now with that really small, compact eye. And just look at that, man. That just screams rapid to extreme intensification, and it pushes over to Florida, and it makes landfall off this model. It makes landfall. It looks to be 2 a.m. Thursday, so really early Thursday morning. So if I had to make a forecast, about when this makes landfall, I think a good middle ground would probably be sometime Wednesday night, late Wednesday night, probably towards that 11. I think HMO had a good idea, 11 p.m. But most of these models that do make landfall a little bit later, they're further north. So I think the correlation is that if we have a further north track, which will probably equal a stronger storm, then we probably see a later landfall compared to if we just get some weaker storm that interacts with Yucatan Peninsula a little bit too much, that impacts storm structure and everything. Then we'll probably get a further south landfall that landfalls much earlier. So there's still some discrepancy on how this interacts with the northern Yucatan Peninsula. Me personally, I don't know if it will do that much to weaken the system. It probably will do something, but it probably won't do a whole bunch. And in fact, after it leaves Yucatan Peninsula, we may see some more strengthening before, once it gets closer to Florida and you get a trough to really start to dig. That's going to impart that shear and also impart that dry air in the backside. So we may see some weakening, but again, it doesn't matter. The situation is already going to be bad in Florida way before that. So even though you're seeing weakening offshore, the situation in Florida is already going to be underway. So, regardless of the weakening process, this doesn't change the fact that Florida's in a bad situation. So, looking at forecasts. So here's the Weather Prediction Center's rain total forecast, and this is some heavier rain over Florida, and this may even be on the light end. But you're already seeing 6 to 10 inch totals all across Central Florida. So it looks like the highest totals go from about Jacksonville to Daytona Beach, and it looks like they're favoring the northern track of the system, which is certainly what I'm favoring. I would favor probably landfall somewhere up in around Hernando County, Florida. So maybe somewhere up in here. Now I gotta tell you, the GFS is much further north. It's like way up here, but I don't think that's gonna happen. But you can see how they're favoring the northern track, and they definitely bring that heavier rainfall further north towards Daytona Beach and Jacksonville, Gainesville, Florida. So again, definitely some interesting forecasts out there. But I think this is a solid forecast. Numbers might even need to go up, but this is some solid rainfall. Probably looking at some flash flooding with this type of rainfall as well. Flooding is going to be a big issue down here in Florida. So all this rainfall in a short amount of time, along with storm surge, is going to cause some pretty significant to major to maybe even catastrophic flooding. So if you're in Florida, you want to start preparing right now. That's a lot of rainfall coming for you guys there. Now looking at the storm surge, I'm pretty sure this is what a lot of y'all want to see. Here's a storm surge map, and look here, and we can start from the bottom. We'll go all the way up. We're starting down here in southern Florida along that Chokoloskee, Florida, west coast of Florida. You can see 2 to 4 feet storm surge. I don't know if I said that right, but and then you got Bonita Beach at 4 to 7 foot storm surge, and then you got Inglewood at a 5 to 10 foot storm surge right around that Charlotte Harbor. You could expect a 5 to 10 foot storm surge, and then you get up here to Tampa Bay, where you could expect 8 to 12 foot storm surge, which is pretty major, maybe even catastrophic. You get up here near Yankee Town, Anclote River, you're expecting 5 to 10 foot storm surge. And then once you get further north, storm surge is obviously going to be worse. Not worse, but less, because the system's going to be to your south. So, and it's just one of those situations where this system tracks north of Tampa, they're looking at stronger storm surge. If it tracks south of Tampa, you're looking at less storm surge. It's just all about the flow and the way the winds are going. So, if you're hoping for less storm surge in Tampa Bay, you want this system to go further south. But right now models are further north. I'm with the more northern track because stronger systems love to gain latitude. They love to go further north. I just think this system is going to go further north. I can see landfall just north of Tampa Bay. So certainly not a good situation for you guys. That's probably the worst case scenario, and it's just not looking good. So looking at and here's just another look at the rainfall potential. You see heavier rain totals over Florida. I just showed you guys that. And then looking at our flash flooding potential, you can see there's a big area of moderate risk of flash flooding over Florida from about Tampa Bay points north towards Jacksonville, Florida, even towards parts of far southeastern Georgia. It's in a moderate threat of flash flooding. So, this is, even though I talk about the small structure of this system, as it starts to weaken, it's going to start to expand. And that's another thing I want to talk about. Once this system starts to weaken, I think HRF showed this pretty well. Once it starts to weaken and you get that shear and that gyre to kind of take a toll on it, and look at how this system just expands off the HRF model. I think it does a really good job showing that this system is going to expand and it's going to get pretty large. So just because it's weakening isn't always a good thing, because what that's going to do is just expand impacts over a larger area and affect more people. Now, looking at the actual cone, the National Hurricane Center track, here we go. And they are expecting a major hurricane to hit the northern Yucatan Peninsula. And I think they're right along that Tampa Bay area. So, again, they're going with the worst case scenario for Tampa there. So, looking at wind speed probabilities, and again, these are going to be quite high. 70 to 80 mile an hour, 70 to 80% chance of tropical storm force winds. So certainly, almost likelihood that you will see tropical storm force winds across central Florida, southern Florida. Most of Florida looks to be in that tropical storm force probability, higher probabilities as well. So definitely a dangerous situation unfolding there. Now, you may ask, why are we seeing such strong and rapid intensification? Well, it's already talked about the structure and the small systems and how they love to rapidly intensify. But here's another thing that's really going for this system. You have this really good jet interaction that's going to happen. So, we've seen this so many times this year, and this is just another scenario where we're seeing this again, where you have these trough interactions. We have this trough to the north and the tropical system to the south. What this does is it provides really good flow aloft, and you can get some really extreme rapid intensification. And the fact that this system is already so small in nature can only help do that even more. So I'm telling you guys, we may have a rapidly intensifying system right up the landfall. that quickly decays from wind shear and dry air as it makes landfall. So, but what that's going to do is just expand and cause impacts to be on a wider scale. So I think this shows it very well at the GFS. You have rapid intensification, and then boom, once it makes a landfall, it significantly weakens, and then the trough obviously is going to end up pushing it out. But that is certainly, I think, a great representation of what we're dealing with, along with very warm ocean waters as well. Now, I talked about dry air and stuff. So here's what we're dealing with here. So here's our system, right? You can kind of see our trough and how it's oriented based on our dry air. You can kind of see our trough is probably somewhere up in here, And what's happening is that the trough is pushing through the southern part of the country. What you're having is you're having dry air on the backside pushing to the Gulf, and then as that shear really opens up the system, you get dry. Look at that dry air that sneaks into the system as it makes landfall. So what that may act to do is, number one, increase the tornado threat, which we'll talk about another day once you get short range models. But it's going to weaken the storm fairly rapidly, because tropical systems do not like dry air. But that is certainly very interesting representation of what we're dealing with. I think this is a really good image or illustration of what we'll probably be dealing with. Probably a rapidly strengthening major hurricane making landfall in Florida that rapidly decays from wind shear and dry air. Now, looking at our track of our system, and you may wonder, why isn't this headed up to the Carolinas? What's keeping this from going further north, and what's allowing this to stay away from us? Well, we can thank our trough for that. We can thank our trough. So what we have here is our trough to the north, which is going to help keep things from coming too far north. And this is why some models are a little bit further south, because everything comes down to this trough right here. And I drew it on there. You can see our trough based off the streamlines right here. So they go up, they go down kind of like a slide. This is our trough. And it's pushing east-south. So what you're having here is that it's I think it's playing a much bigger role in our track than what people are giving it. Because our trough is going to move in at a much faster clip than our system, it's I could definitely see a more northeast track, and then it gets attached to the trough, which ultimately ends up taking it out to sea. So again, definitely an interesting scenario, but you can see our trough to the north and how much bigger a role it's playing. And then you can also, another thing I want you to keep notice, is our ridge in the Bahamas. This ridge in the Bahamas also is probably going to keep it from getting too far south and east. So again, I think it's more one of those escape routes, kind of, where it's cutting through the trough in the ridge, and then it gets attached to the trough towards the end. So again, interesting illustration of the GEFS 500 heights, but I think it does a good job of highlighting that. And I also think that the more northern track is definitely on the table compared to the further south tracks, which are more in line with the weaker solutions, which, we're almost headed at Category 5 status here, so the weaker solutions are probably not on the table at this point. But again, we will have to watch its interaction with the northern Yucatan Peninsula, because if it does a lot more to the system than I think it's going to do, then I could certainly see a further south track, maybe further south in Tampa. But right now, model consensus, and in my line of thinking, is that this system ends up further north into Florida. So, significant system is underway. Probably will be a Cat 5, maybe in the next update. But this is a significant system, guys. If you're in Florida, you should be preparing for a significant system. This is not good news, guys. I wish I could bring you better news, but this is what we got for you today. But I will be back at you tomorrow with another big update, talking about more local impacts for Florida, and as far as wind gusts, rain totals, tornado chance. I'll be talking all about that tomorrow, so you want to stick around for that tomorrow. But that's really all I got. Again, if we get any other updates, I will post them to the community notes, so keep an eye on that. But guys, we're looking at a significant hurricane making an approach to Florida.